Okay, now we wait for the people.
I'm excited.
Oh, this is good. Hi, Leia. They're coming in. Yay. Alright, I'm just waiting for some more people. Hello, beautiful people. Hi, Mama Marks.
Yo. Ooh, you excited?
I am excited. Alright, we'll start now. Hi, beautiful people. I'm Amber Tamm. I am Farmers Footprints, a new community intersectional strategist. And I wrote a blog post yesterday about food access in New York City and about community chefs and how they're playing their part with community fridges. And I featured this lovely man, Anochi Odinga II, who is also my partner. And he wrote about, or you were talking about so many points that need to be spoken on.
Yeah, just like the connections that, the realities that we're facing right now, and just like some of the hardships that we're dealing with, and just that reality that we really need help.
Yeah. So y'all, if you have any questions, I will be looking at what the questions are. So if you have any questions based on the article, if you haven't read the article, we talk about it on the last Farmers Footprint post, or you can check the link in our bio. Otherwise, if you already read the article or you already are super equipped with knowledge about community fridges and community chefs, you can drop your questions here, and we'll have a little bit of time at the end to answer them. So I think for those that didn't read the article, do you want to just talk a little bit about what you said in the interview?
Yeah, part of what the main issue is that a lot of the community chefs throughout the city, like a lot of individuals like myself, and not just in this city, but across the entire country, have been doing similar work and been doing this exact type of work that are in need of help. I think the reality is, like, for me personally, like, I've used a lot of unemployment funds to get this work done. Between buying produce or paying for cabs or any sort of MetroCard or anything that I would need to do this type of work. Also, the reality is we for sure need help from regenerative farmers. We need help from those local farms or those farms across the country that can make a difference in the type of produce that we're cooking and the amount of produce that we have access to.
Yeah, so just to run it back, if you didn't read the article, what he's referring to is, in the article, these community chefs who are helping with food access to the community fridges by having hot meals available are doing so with leftovers from USDA and from depot spots that they're picking up food, and also from really whatever else y'all can get your hands on.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from just mainly donations. Like, everything that we're getting is either coming from places like Pick a Bagel that, like, they can donate by the end of the day because they're gonna have to throw away their food, or like some supermarkets, they'll send things like 2 days before the expiration date. We've had like a lot of stuff come in from like Long Island or like Jersey that are like 3-4 days after the expiration date, and we can't use them anymore. So yeah, a lot of it has been coming in of like the scraps of what people can give us.
So what the call for from community chefs with the regenerative ag movement is beyond, of course, what we want is for donations to come in first if you can donate, but beyond that, these community chefs are asking the regenerative ag movement, how can we get regenerative produce to touch the component of food access? Right? Understanding that we are completely behind regenerative ag. Obviously, I am, for anyone who knows my work, but I think the reality is that regenerative produce will cost a lot eventually. And I think within that realm of it costing a lot, how is it going to touch low-income hands? And right now there's an avenue to do that through community fridges with the help of community chefs like Anochi.
Yeah, exactly. Open up a door to like create new things that we haven't really done before. Like recently, my homie Jaime and I, like, he's another community chef that I do a lot of work with. he created a sweet potato puree, which is really cool because that was one of the few times that we had gotten sweet potatoes. So, that's one of like the more fun things that we can do. And even yesterday we got to do pineapple parfaits, which is cool because I think that was the first time we had gotten pineapple since we've started doing this work. So, the more variety we have, like the more access we have, like the better we can do these things, and the more interested people will be in, going into something and saying like, okay, I want a snack right now. I can have this pineapple parfait, or I want to feed myself right this moment, but I don't have a way to heat up my food because there's no gas, or I'm homeless and I don't have access to a kitchen at all, so I need to eat something right at this moment. I think it really starts to play into that.
Amen. For those of you who are just hopping on and tuning in, this is Anochi Odinga the second, who is a community chef in NYC. I'm Amber Tamm. I'm one of the newest members, part of the Farmers Footprint team, and I do intersectional community strategy, and we're talking about food access through community fridges and community chefs like Anochi. So if you have any questions pertaining to community fridges or what culinary activism looks like, now is the time to ask a community chef. And we released a piece yesterday with an interview with Anochi, and if you didn't see it, there's a post on our page, and there is a link in our bio, so you can check it out. Do you get donations from Park Slope Food Co-op?
Park Slope Food Co-op.
Probably not.
I don't think so. Like, that name doesn't really sound familiar to me. I'm not going to say I know every single source in which we're getting donations, but I personally haven't heard that name. I'm sure someone else has worked with them, or like, someone else has accepted some sort of donation from them. But the majority of stuff that we get either comes from, excess from a farm, which was when I think this was 2.5 months ago, we got 40,000 pounds.
Yes, tell them this story. Y'all need to know this story.
Yeah, it was 40,000 pounds of purple potatoes. And our Food NYC accepted it, and we really just had a really phenomenal day of distributing and portioning and like finding places for it to go for storage and
Wait, just pause. Trucks. Y'all, this is 40,000 pounds
40,000
of potatoes.
Pounds, yeah. 40,000.
If you are a farmer, you understand that is like a ridiculous amount of one crop.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it was.
And this was offloading into like the streets of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
With like very minimal hands helping them unload the truck.
Yeah, just a massive, like, all the volunteers came out. I think it was probably like 20 people or so. Like, we all came out.
For 40,000 pounds.
Some of us were in the truck, and like some of us were right outside. Some of us were in front of the Love Gallery, like distributing and trying to portion and find places for the pallets to go. So it was pretty wild. But the amount that we have now is like 1,000 or 2,000 left. So I mean, we've gone through more than 30,000 pounds of potatoes throughout the course of 2 months. So
and this is like, these are potatoes that are ending up as hot meals in the community fridges. Mm-hmm. So that leads directly into a conversation about diversity.
Yeah.
So you might want to talk more about that.
I think with that, like, it's important to understand, because a lot of people will say, like, just drop the potatoes in. And yeah, of course, that's an option. Like, you for sure can drop 40,000 pounds of potatoes out on the street, but it kind of goes back into that conversation of the amount of homeless people who are out in the street who really can't make a potato in the middle of the street. The amount of people who will go home and they don't have gas, the amount of people that can't afford to pay gas, the amount of people that live in public housing where the gas is being cut off, like the houses out in Queens. It's it kind of hits on a different level when you understand, like, if we aren't here to process and really cook this food and portion it out, then these people wouldn't be able to eat. It sort of solves that problem for that immediate issue. If someone can come in and say, like, hey, I need to eat right now, like, maybe it's a bowl of cold potatoes and cabbage and carrots, but this bowl of vegetables is going to be good for me right now. Like, I don't have any other options because the pantry is closed, or I don't have access to it for whatever reason, or right. I can't bring it home to cook. I think that's really like one of the biggest important things right now.
Yeah. I think one of the things that came up about community fridges this summer is there was a lot of resentment towards them in terms of it being called waste management, or like not honoring the community in terms of giving communities autonomy through these fridges, but rather this fridge is just a magnet for literally excess. So if you could talk more about the resentment that one may have, and help others who maybe don't have a community fridge understand its benefits.
I mean, I know for me personally, that's like a really frustrating sore subject, but it's mainly just because I think when these situations and these conversations come up, people are automatically assuming that, we're here doing this work to solve this major crisis of hunger, when in reality, we're here to help people that day. Our main focus is helping people today that can't be helped yesterday or tomorrow. It's like if I need something to eat at 3 p.m., I can't wait until next year for it. You know what I mean? And in terms of waste management, I kind of laugh at that just because the reality is the waste managers are like, people like me and these other community chefs who are coming in and saying like, all of these pounds of food will go to waste if we don't figure out a way how to cook it. One of the things that we've done recently is create these parfaits, which is really dope because there's been these packages of USDA yogurt that comes in. It's like Yoplait vanilla yogurt, but it really just has weird packaging, and that's the main reason why people don't want it. It just doesn't look appetizing. It looks really weird. It's kind of slimy looking. It looks like it comes in like a weird liquid or anything like that. But when you open it up and taste it, it's fine. And that's the biggest thing that we're doing is like, going through these things and understanding like, okay, let me try it first so that I know it's good, so that I know exactly what it is. Let me check the expiration date, and let me go as far as to label it and put a date on it before I put it in the fridge so that people understand what day it came in and how long it's going to be good for,
Amen. If y'all are just tuning in, this is Anochi Odinga, the second community chef. I'm Amber Tamm from the Farmer's Footprint team, and we just so happen to live together, and I'm interviewing him for y'all to talk about community access to food, especially during now with a pandemic. Ooh, Leia asked, how can one start a community fridge in their area, and what does it take? Also, along with that question, what advice do you have for people who are giving to their local community fridge or want to help out?
I think starting a fridge is really simple. Like a lot of people think that there's a massive amount of work and effort that goes into it, but the reality is it's as simple as finding a space outside of an apartment. A house that you own, or a business that you own, or some sort of space that's willing to hold this fridge, and you can have it set up. We'll as Our Food NYC, they have a program where they're creating shelters for these fridges. So if you connect with an organization like them, they'll help you to guide through, and they'll send a community chef like myself and a few others to come in and cook, and we'll have a big event to sort of launch this fridge. And it's actually a lot of fun. It's pretty cool. I've done it myself, and I've helped out with painting. I've helped out on fridge launches, which is really a lot of fun because you get to interact with the people there. You get to say like what it is that you're here for, and you get to understand what it is that they want. I think if you're going in to donate, that's one of the things that you should be doing. Don't be afraid to interact with the people around the fridge. I think that's been one of the biggest things that I've understood is like, it can be a little bit nerve wracking because some of these neighborhoods are really low income. Some of these neighborhoods may not seem as welcoming as others, but the reality is it's like we're all in need of these things. All of us living in these situations are in need of it. So if you go in from another place, or if you're coming in with some sort of monetary privilege, then yeah, you should understand that the person waiting for you to finish filling up that fridge has requests. They have needs. It's like they may not want 800 pounds of basil. It's like if you put 800 pounds of basil in one fridge, that's 800 pounds of basil. That's probably not going to be used. But if you spread it around and understand where stuff needs to go, like people can orient and coordinate with you.
Amen. Is it possible to existing infrastructures, for example, restaurants that are not busy? I'm taking this question as, is it possible to have community fridges with existing infrastructures?
Well, yeah, the reality with that is people can't afford to eat at restaurants right now, you know?
Yeah.
And also there's millions of food workers unemployed right now. So yeah, it for sure can exist because it has been. You know, I think with these restaurants and, you know, these co-ops and these other food infrastructures, like they have to understand that yes, you're here for profit, but there's a lot of people who really don't have the money for these things. You know, if someone is coming in saying like, I don't have access to a kitchen, their first priority isn't to go and say, let me go out to a restaurant and eat every single day. It's
Right.
like, not all of us have that access. Like, not all of us have that privilege. But if you look at someone who's coming from a low income family or someone who's coming from an immigrant family, no, they're not going to say, like, I need to go out to a restaurant every night to eat. A lot of these families are depending on the fridges that are coming in. You know, a lot of them are depending on these pre-made meals that folks like myself are creating, you know, so
Amen.
they for sure can coexist, you know. Absolutely.
Now, Leia's asking for a little introduction from you. Tell them about yourself, Playboy. Tell them about your story of how you got into this work.
I got into this work doing a lot of like, sort of like, to me, what I sort of saw as like common sense. I had worked in a place where we were getting fraudulent checks, and a lot of us ended up with, you know, pretty serious financial issues. From there, I tried to start a union, but it ended up not working out, and I actually got fired for it as well as a lot of other people. From there, I started at a restaurant called Beechers, which was, you know, one of the largest restaurants in the city. And they would waste a lot of food. And a coworker of mine would take as much as he could out to, you know, shelters or, you know, different homes and, you know, people that didn't have access to it. So I think that was sort of like my start to this work, was understanding my access. And I think now that's one of the biggest things is, you know, that's one of the things that keeps me going with it is like, you know, I have access now to food that I didn't have before. Whereas, you know, I had to go out of pocket for this stuff, and, you know, I would spend thousands of dollars for produce and, you know, plastic bags and aluminum foil and taking a cab here and there. Whereas now, you know, I'm starting to get more access to these depots who are starting to get more familiar with me, or, you know, these pantries who know me on a first name basis, or these restaurants or, you know, these local fridges that can say like, hey, Anochi, we have 35 pallets of onions, you know, would you need any? Or, you know, we have 10 boxes of oil that were donated today. We know that you're going to be cooking soon. You should take a few bottles, you know? So for me, I'm starting to understand that my biggest calling for it is just understanding that because I can do it, I should. And, you know, that's how I got started with it. And that's just how I'm continuing on with it.
Amen. Let's see what the people are asking. Feel free to drop your questions, y'all. How do food banks contribute to, or are they related to community fridges? Word, that was also my question. What are the pros and cons of community fridges and food pantries? And do you vision that these two spaces will work together?
That's a sore question right there. A lot of these depots and, you know, a lot of these pantries and things like that, they're getting their things from the same places that we are. So, yeah, maybe they have 800 pounds of food, but they can only give you a box worth because they have to spread it out between hundreds of other people or, you know, thousands of other locations or something like that, you know.
Right.
But I think in the future, what we would really need is that direct partnership. You know, I think we need direct access with these pantries who are only getting, you know, really cheap, unsustainable, sort of like non-nutritious food. But if we have a pantry that can come in and say, like, all of our food is completely organic, like all of our food came in from here, you know, they can easily spread that out rather than it being, all we have is 100 pounds of this, you know, government cheese, you know. But in the future, yeah, I do think that these two things can coexist. Right now, it's really difficult. It really isn't easy getting donations from certain places like that because, you know, like I said, they're spread pretty thin right now, and they're all getting it from the same source, where right now we're dealing with that shortage because we all got it from the same source and it's no longer available.
Word. If one can, they should. Such a direct way to approach mutual aid. Amen. Amen. If y'all have any questions, we're going to be on here for a little bit longer with y'all. But please just write them in the comments. And when I post this video, there'll be a link to donate to Anochi and then another link to donate to Our Food NYC, who he works with. I just answered this Vermont food photo. We got y'all who want to really donate to the work that these community chefs have been doing for a very long time without any emphasis. I'm just looking for your questions. I don't see any. I guess what I think you should talk about, my question personally is like, how do you see the future of community chefs? Like, what is your vision for that? How would you like to see that evolve and supported? And like, how do you feel about these terms, as in culinary activism, now being coined in this? Or somebody's coming in. How does one become a community chef?
How does one become a community chef? I think personally, one of the things that I always say to people who ask me this question is, first, you need to physically be able to do this work.
Amen.
And I say that with no bias or ego. You need to physically be ready to do this work because it takes a lot of physical effort. You know, you have to be prepared to be waking up at 6 a.m. to do physical labor for 3 hours, like lifting boxes or helping people portion, to go into a kitchen and cook for 4 more hours, to then go to another depot and do that for a couple of hours, and maybe you have to go somewhere else and do something for a little while. But, you know, you have to be ready to fully be dedicated to being physical for your entire day. And then you might have to go home and cook for your beautiful partner, you know.
And also just want to emphasize, this is based on New York City.
Yeah.
Like, where, you know, the life of a community chef looks very different in New York City due to public trans.
Right.
And also due to, like, not being able to social distance and all of these things. So just wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, what you vision, what is the
for
future?
The future, I mean, I know for me, one of the things that I would like to see is more connection. I think it's hard to do this work right now because everything is so spread out. It's like, you know, I'm going from Harlem to Brooklyn to Queens, back to Brooklyn, then to the Bronx, and then back to Harlem. It's like, you know, if we had some sort of connection where people were able to go to all of these places and then bring them all to one spot, or we had that sort of connection where I could send a message out and then everyone would understand where I am and what we're doing and who I'm with, or maybe the community chef I'm cooking with that day can do the same thing, like they send a message out. I think if we can be, you know, closer together, I think that's the biggest thing. It's so difficult right now to get this done, being so spread apart.
Vermont Food Photo said you need a driver.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, amen.
It's true.
Here we go. Ever seen solar powered fridges, and could that be an option for places?
Yeah, I mean, I think in certain places it might be a little more difficult. Like, I don't completely know how solar power works, but I do know in like certain areas it's more difficult because of trees or because of weather or anything like that. I think if people really spend time to dedicate themselves to researching how it would look to have those sort of solar powered fridges in the city, that would be amazing. Because, you know, I think that would give us even more autonomy so that we don't have to depend on businesses or building owners and things like that. So
that could really be a good lead to placing fridges where they actually belong, rather than in front of a business.
Yeah.
Also, that leads directly into donations. And once again, we'll have Anochi's personal Venmo link and Our Food NYC, because in order to get the solar powered fridges, due to COVID, donations are needed. Yeah. What is the best way to find a place and cook in large quantity? Yeah, this goes back into that lifestyle component of a community. Yeah.
I have made all of my food, the majority of my food, not all of my food. I've made the majority of my food since May at home. I've been up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, wrapping and cooking food and portioning and doing my prep and everything.
In full garb, y'all.
Yeah.
In full garb. Like
fully dressed,
masked up, hat on, gloves on.
Yeah, fully ready.
Sterilizing the kitchen. Nobody can come in. Just needed to tell y'all that.
So, yeah, it is a little bit difficult. We're really grateful because we have a restaurant in Brooklyn, Bushwick Grind, that has dedicated their space to us. and they let us come in, either whenever we want or when they're closed to go in and cook as much as we possibly can. It really is difficult now because a lot of these kitchen spaces have been closing. Like I said, there's millions of us out of work right now. There's thousands of businesses across the city that have closed due to COVID. A lot of these kitchens that were dedicated to donating their spaces can't anymore. A lot of leases have changed. A lot of people have been evicted. So, with that, it is still a huge challenge. It is still a big challenge finding consistent places that can cook. And
especially when these community chefs are not getting paid for it. And then they're asking to use the space and not being able to offer any
we can't
payment.
offer any payment. Right. We can't really offer a trade of any sort. So it is really hard. A lot of people aren't really willing, but there are those folks out there that are like completely dedicated, and they'll say yes regardless.
Shout out to Bashir Grind. Shout out to Kimmy.
Shout out to Kimmy.
What do you find is your current biggest hurdle for the program that you feel could be relatively easily removed, and what would you resolve? Also, shout out to Greg and Kat for asking these questions. Love y'all.
That is a really good question. I think the biggest hurdle and the most frustrating hurdle is transport. Every single time I have gone to do anything, the issue that we have is transport. Like, no matter how good the day is going, no matter if everything is going perfectly and we got it all set up and it's all good, we gotta find transport.
And I'm sure farmers can agree that I'm sure farmers know that transport is always the problem.
It's insane. It really is insane because, you're constantly going in and like, it's starting to make me rub my eye now just thinking about it because I'm like, damn, but every single time we have anything going on, the biggest issue is transport. Sometimes we get lucky and people will come in with the U-Haul and they'll be like, yeah, I'm ready to drive this U-Haul all day. But again, that's coming from a volunteer that has to pay for each mile of that U-Haul. So
absolutely,
there's certain times where they're like, nah, I can't go from Queens to the Bronx again. I can't afford it. So
yeah. Also,
transport.
That's once again another narrative of how food how it moves through New York City. It's a little bit more complicated, y'all. Yeah. It's a little bit more hard. How can farmers connect with chefs that are looking to create community fridges? Yes, Greg, to this question.
I mean, you're looking at a chef right now, so, the reality is right there. I think if you're out in, like, California watching this right now, go look for that community chef because I guarantee you there's a community chef close by to you. I guarantee you that in every state, in every city, in every town, there is some type of community chef doing this work. So find that person, go on Twitter, go on your Facebook, go on your Instagram, do whatever you got to do to find that community chef near you because they absolutely need some help. But I think the easiest way to do that is, for sure to find out what they need, to understand that we will absolutely take that fridge and, if we have a space that's willing to do it, then it'll be no problem,
Yeah. I also want to add to that and say that I think I should probably do a call out on my own Instagram to see where community chefs are at right now. And I can do that and then share it with whoever wants it pertaining to where you are, what state you're in. Like, I should probably have some data on that. How do you source your ingredients?
That's a combination of luck, donations, and a little bit of prayer. Cause
that's real.
Yeah, cause sourcing this stuff is really not easy. Like, there's a lot of times where we have to only do potatoes. I posted a picture of what myself and Chef Jaime made yesterday, which was, a vegan bowl with potatoes and a bunch of vegetables in it. But there's times that we could only do potatoes and onions. There's times where that's the only thing that's available. So we're doing like little containers of just potatoes and just onions, which it is a little bit frustrating, but it also is exactly what we're here to do. So, sourcing ingredients is definitely, that's a challenge that can't be easily sorted out. That's something that we have to really come together and like figure out what it looks like to get these ingredients to us directly, rather than it be it's coming from a farm that we have no contact to, or it's coming from the USDA that is going to show up whenever they want,
Yeah, but what I will say is these chefs are like doing a chef's challenge every day and being able to
Oh
like
yeah.
piece together like a puzzle piece how to make something good out of
Yeah, we get
what
a bunch of random
they're
stuff in
being
these boxes,
handed.
and we get to do like a little challenge every time. It's really fun.
It's pretty crazy. Any laws or regulations or permits to be aware of when providing food to the community? Okay, this is important
Yeah.
because right now at community fridges, there isn't any regulations going on, and this might be a real sweet spot. That might change.
I think we have a real advantage right now. Like personally, I look at that as an advantage. I think once we allow our government to get involved and say what we can and cannot be doing with these fridges, that's when things are going to change, and that's when it's going to be a lot more difficult. I think we need to make sure that we're keeping things autonomous with these fridges.
Yeah.
And the reality is that's the only way that we can really get this work done. If we can let the health department come in and say y'all can only put USDA approved products in these fridges, then it completely defeats the purpose of it. So, I personally would say that, I would love to see some people come together and say that they're going to work to keep these fridges autonomous. But, I personally don't believe that there's going to be some huge benefit in, allowing like the health department or the USDA to come in and say what we can and cannot be doing with these.
And with that, I think that one of the protocols that I've seen these community chefs and everybody involved in community fridges in NYC have created is they've created their own schedules to, every day clean the fridge out
Right.
of whatever is spoiled or expired.
Yeah.
Make sure they're cleaning off the handles. Make sure they're sanitizing it down just for COVID safety, making sure they're
Right.
checking to see if things are open.
I would love to really see something where we can have it like how I do now, except if the USDA wants to come in and say, hey, y'all need a trained chef for each one of these fridges, that would be beautiful. I would love for the health department to come in and say that, because that's what we've been doing. I have 2 or 3 fridges near me that I frequent. There's one that I go to almost every single day. There are fridges out in Brooklyn that I know community chefs that are going to pretty much every single day. Some of these businesses that own the fridges, they're stocking them up. Like I know Playground Coffee's fridges, they're stocked up and well maintained every single day.
Yep.
So yeah, I think if we can continue on with that, I think if we can continue with keeping it autonomous and keeping it within our control to make sure that we're continuing this work easy, then we'll be perfect.
And that's the power of working with chefs, because they're already trained
Right.
to follow Department of Health's laws and regulations pertaining to food in general. They have it almost downloaded in y'all's head.
Yeah,
That's how y'all
it's
move.
drilled in. For sure.
Is there a national community fridge network in existence that I can connect farmers to? You know what?
That's a good question.
We have to make that. That's our homework.
Yeah.
We will make it. We will make it.
There are organizations throughout the country that are like individually placed. Like Our Food NYC is a good directory for the fridges throughout the city. They have a really good network of people who are connected with them. I think if we can find a way to connect those type of organizations with each other, then that would be flawless. Like that's the international grid right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then we can connect regenerative farmers to fridges and people who manage them. And I think that's the best thing about fridges is y'all are people. This isn't, right now it isn't super linked to like big organizations yet. Like when you want to talk to somebody about a fridge, you are speaking to a person. There's no runaround, there's no protocol. It's just all there. All right, y'all. I'm looking for your questions. How do you communicate with the community that doesn't have access to social media that these fridges are available?
Ooh.
When and where they are open? That is a very good, powerful question.
I'm loving these questions. Like y'all are hooking it up right now. I think the way that we connect is just by interaction. The chef that I work with frequently, Jaime, he's an artist as well. So he's drawn out these really incredible flyers that he gives out to people. He goes out to supermarkets and hands them out. He'll go out to local businesses and speak with them directly to see what they can do and how they can partner. I know me personally, like what I try to do is interact with other organizers. I try and interact with local people who are coming in who maybe they're homeless and they don't have a cell phone, or maybe they're older and don't know how to use a cell phone. Like, there was someone that I interacted with a few weeks ago who said that he didn't have a kitchen. Like, he said that he didn't have a stove. So he's relying on these fridges 100%. And one of the things that we asked him was like, how often are you coming in? And, how can we help to keep the fridge more stocked up so that you specifically can benefit from it? So that's like one of the biggest things that we've been seeing.
It is by paper, right? And it is digitally. So if we're looking in the span of sustainability, like they're doing the best that they can.
Yeah, it's just about networking. I know like for community chefs, it's a little bit easier because, we've been networking since we started working in kitchens.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
I do understand, like I said, for some other volunteers, it can be a little bit intimidating to go up to a random person and say, hey, what would you like me to put in this fridge? Or, to go up to a homeless person and ask like, hey, what did you eat today? Hey, what can I put in this fridge for you tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of autonomy, are there any integrated programs that offer education for food insecure participants to learn to grow their own, learn to cook? What's the biggest hurdle here? Land access? Yeah.
That's the short
also,
answer right
COVID is the biggest problem right now.
And COVID is
because one of the things that I personally would like to see from community chefs via community fridges is teaching other chefs how to really challenge themselves to piece together ingredients. Like, how do you just take whatever's in front of you at whatever quality, right? Like, we're talking about USDA handing people food boxes with things already halfway gone or half dead, or having half-cooked chicken. Like, these community chefs who are trained to make food beautiful are able to take anything that looks any way and make it look really beautiful without being paid for it, without needing any recognition for it, and just with the heart and intention to giving it to the people.
Yeah.
But I think it would be beautiful for other chefs to learn about that, to learn what that looks like.
Absolutely.
But also, it would be beautiful to just teach people via demo.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're hoping to do soon, like with COVID regulations sort of opening up, hopefully, we're planning to do demos. There are a lot of people who they're interested in doing pop-ups. There are a lot of organizations that are interested in doing, direct work with children.
Right.
So that we can, start that education component. Because, I think one of the biggest things that we've seen is just people don't know what it is that they have. People don't know how to cook it.
Yes.
And they don't know what it is, So it doesn't really matter if you, like I said, fill 100 pounds of basil, but if you pull up a basil leaf and you don't know what it is, you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
Or you're going to think that it's something else and you're going to eat it incorrectly or prep it incorrectly,
Yeah. What I've seen is some people do leave recipe cards for things inside of the community fridge, which, I mean, recipes can be very hard to follow. There's also language barrier where some people might be immigrants, so they can't read English, etc. But I have seen people trying to be helpful, mildly. Again, so many love. Microgreens. That's a great idea. Leaving those in the fridge. So we're gonna... I did forget to address the thing about culinary activism. Let's address it. That is really important. Let me preface this. So, in recent times, because I need y'all to know about this too, as regenerative community, in recent times there has been released that now there's a new term called culinary activism, which will be about being a community chef and being equipped with the skills to cook for people in examples like pandemic or when there's a lot of people hungry, essentially. But this is a new term that I think we're going to keep hearing years from now, like culinary activism, and being taught this when there's already chefs that are doing it naturally. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
speak your piece.
I think with that, we just have to sort of, address the reality that, these sort of institutions, like, they're not focused on individuals like me. They don't care that I've spent literally all of my unemployment money doing this. They don't care that someone else has spent, thousands of dollars, or someone like Playground Coffee has put up so much to continue this type of work. I think if they're going to continue to do this, I think that if they're going to, have people come in and say, yeah, I'm learning culinary activism, then they need to first address the people who created it. You know, they need to first address the people who have done the work to really take it into this modern realm. You know, I think a lot of people will say like, well, this work has been done before, or, you know, this is something that's been going on forever, or this organization has been doing this for so long. It's like, sure, they've done similar work, but this sort of direct action work has never been done before. And if you want to go into what culinary activism is, if you want to call it culinary activism, then you need to go and find those culinary activists. You know, the same way you need to go as a farmer to find your community chef, you as an instructor need to go and find your community chef.
Amen.
You know?
And also I think with terms being created, we need to be careful of how that affects the community itself. I would imagine that this term culinary activism is going to create culinary activists who are going to want to activate in low-income communities that they may have not grown up in, they may have not be connected to yet. And that can lead into narratives of white saviorism, narratives of not really helping the community the way that they're asking to be helped. I think that's where your privilege comes in, is you're cooking for a city that you were born and raised in.
Right.
But you're also still living within a food apartheid. We're also still living in needing to buy conventional produce because it's seasonal.
Right.
Needing to buy conventional produce because we're hungry. So we are not apart from the people who we are helping. We are helping ourselves and helping them at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. Well, we've been on here for a minute. So if you have any last words... Tell the people. Tell the people they're here for you. They love you.
Any last words would absolutely be, like I said, donate, find your local chef, and start creating these plans. Because now that we're doing this and it's 2021 and we're continuing this work, absolutely people are looking at it and starting to understand that there's not only money to be made, but there's a historical aspect that will go into this. And we may not see it right now, but 20, 30 years from now, people are going to go back and look at these times and say, wow, these are the people that created the model by which we live by. These are the people that created a model that we're still eating with, you know? So like I said, go out and donate, go out and find somebody who needs some help, and please give your local community chef a call or a message or an email or $1, you know, like they for sure need some help. Because I know I need some help. You know, we've been trying to be humble like good chefs are supposed to, but this shit ain't easy. So, yeah.
Thanks for keeping it real, y'all. Yeah. For everyone asking, where do we donate? I'm going to post this video on Farmer's Footprint page with Anochi's page, his personal Instagram page, and then a link to his Venmo. So this will stay permanent for a while on Farmer's Footprint page. But thank y'all for all the love. Thank y'all for tuning in. I love y'all so much, and I'm happy to be with Farmer's Footprint. Help out your boy. There'll be more work coming from these people soon. We'll catch up with them in a while.
Absolutely.
Yay. Love y'all.